are meeting people who might be terrorists, even without getting permission from a judge. Do you think that we should withdraw this right, the right of governments to monitor what's going on social media, because this is what happened in France?
Thank you very much. Now the panel has a right.
شكرا جزيلا.
About a minute each. Please respond to some specific questions where necessary. So maybe in the reverse order. Martin first.
Yeah, I want to address the actions we can take because it follows up on what I'd said. So the groups in this room, we have a lot of lawyers between us, and you have a lot of we need sanctions. You can't mess around. Get these officials. They can't travel. They can't have foreign bank accounts. That's the way you get them. It's like the Magnitsky Act against Russia. That had a profound effect. That's what you have to do. Hit people in the pocketbooks and you get a change. And just so you know, in London in the summer, they had the Press Freedom Conference by Britain and Canada. And one of the suggestions we made was really hard push for sanctions. I know for a fact that they're considering that right now. The next conference will be this summer in Canada, and I'm really hoping that they will support sanctions against bad actors overseas.
Thank you, Martin. Nighthawk?
Yeah. There was this question around from a Syrian colleague, and I would like to mention this one organization called Syrian Archive. They have massive content around, especially the content that has been taken down by the social media companies, but also that sort of comes up again and again. So they are not only having archive of that particular content, but also they are pushing social media platforms to have a record or archive so that journalists and activists will have access to it. So there are these organizations and initiatives that are question around how to do advocacy or campaign with the governments. And there is this another organization called NetBlocks that works around internet shutdowns, and they generate evidence in real time. So what they do is that they do scanning while involving internet users and then generate evidence. We have used their evidence in court cases against internet shutdowns in Pakistan and got relief as well. So there are like these examples that we can use, and also initiatives that are already out there, and we just need to reach out to them. And the third around government troll armies. I think social media companies really know who are trolling people, and when they are troll armies, they can easily shut them down. They can easily shut the trend also. But I think it's a matter of priority. Again, we need initiatives and organizations and researchers who can generate evidence that we can use in our work to advocate with the social media companies, but also with the international bodies to sort of address this particular issue.
Thank you. Rita?
Trying to do the impossible in 1 minute. I think many of the concerns that you raised have to do with the need to strengthen national institutions. Because when you talk about arbitrary arrest, shutting down protests, for example, in countries where you have a strong ombudsperson or national human rights institutions where they have a say, they can interfere right away and try to bring some justice. In countries where these are weak, this is when you need to come to the United Nations. It's much slower. It's not as efficient as it could be. So I think one of the conclusions that we have to make is that we need to strengthen national institutions for minority protection, for freedom of speech, and for human rights defenders so that they can intervene on the local level. And then I have one more concern to make at the very end. We spent 2 days talking about this monster, the social media, and I have to self-correct myself. I just looked at the number. There are 3 billion users of Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Messenger. But the thing is, we have been here discussing among officials, academia, NGOs, and UN people, and we had only one representative on stage from the social media platforms. This has to be stopped. It's a bit bizarre to keep on discussing what we can do in our own capacity when it's all about what they do on their own platforms. And I can tell you, I talk to a lot of foreign governments. They monitor bots, they know about foreign influence, they know about all the campaigns. They don't know what to do because they are behind in the technology. So there are even progressive governments who have this amazing research structure. They know what's going on, they don't know what they can do. So this is a call for all these media giants and the tech giants to please start cooperating with governments and state actors so you can help them fighting the devil, because we can't win this without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Now, Lena.
I mean, firstly, I just want to say that, you know, the stories from Iraq and Syria and Eritrea and other places, they're tragic, they're personal, they're real, and they reflect real challenges of legitimacy in those governments. The online behavior is a reflection of the offline challenges of governance and of legitimacy. And, you know, it sounds weird for me to say this, but those who are in government who are also repressing and doing all of these things, they're afraid. They don't want to lose power. They are perhaps abusing that power. But I think that if we only think that we can push them to a place of change, I just don't think that that happens. You know, we worked in the Central African Republic, in a country in Central Africa devastated by war. And hundreds of thousands of people were coming online. And the government didn't know what to do. And so they were thinking to shut things down every time there was a criticism of the government. And what we were able to do with the Ombudsman, with the Haute Commissaire de la Communication, was to actually get a dialogue with young people, with social media users, with the people in government, so that there would be less fear and that they could understand together what kinds of limits and parameters were possible. We've seen in the extractive industry space the voluntary principles which are holding, to a certain degree, extractive industries to do their work and respect human rights. So I do also believe that some of those regulatory frameworks can happen. But I think that sometimes it's unrealistic to think that the social media should be the arbiter, because these are real conflicts and there's really are diverse points of views. And while we here in this room are saying human rights activists defending fundamental human rights, there are also people who are using social media to criticize government in a very violent and adversarial way. So sometimes we also need to put ourselves in the shoes of those in government. Just one or two more quick comments. I think that the same want people driving a car without having learned how to drive the car. We need to think about the next 1 billion people coming online, that they need education. And I think one thing we could advocate to social media companies is that when you get a new account, that you need to mandatorily be educated about identifying fake news, what to do, how to handle bullying, and all the kinds of behaviors, because this is our neighborhood and we operate in it just the way that we all drive around on the streets. It's the same concept. And I think the last thing I would say is that we are the customers. These platforms exist because we're there. If we weren't there, they wouldn't be making a profit from us through their business model. So the more that we can, through excellent forums like this, articulate ways for that we can make asks and then rally utilization and behaviors around that by us, the users, I think that's where the companies will also listen to us. We shouldn't give them the power to censor in conflicts that are just too complex for them to manage. But I think that there's an opportunity for us to demand that they take more care of this digital neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lena. A round of applause to our panelists, please. Thank you very much. The closing session is going to begin right now. Delegates, please don't leave the room. The closing session is beginning right now. I have been informed. But let me take this opportunity to thank the Human Rights Committee of Qatar. Please join me, since we shall not have a chance. Let's thank the Human Rights Committee of Qatar for the space and opportunity. Round of applause, please. The United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner, please a round of applause. The European Parliament, round of applause. IFJ, round of applause. I don't hear you, please. And of course, the Global Alliance. Thank you very much. On my part, I commit to conveying your thoughts, your ideas to the United Nations when I present my next report to the UN Human Rights Council and the General Assembly. Once again, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. The closing ceremony will now begin.